Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So we basically ripped off every popular thing, rolled it into one thing, and that's how the initial concept of the Turtles was born.
The word Gonzo comes to mind.
But what was fun, when we did publish that first issue, I had $500 that I'd gotten back as an income tax return. We cleaned out all $200 out of Peter's bank account. I had an uncle that I borrowed $1,000 from, and from that we were able to, we had exactly enough money to print 3,000 copies of the first issue. We naturally assumed we wouldn't sell one single copy, so even when we get the books back from the printer, we literally made furniture out of them in our house, like a table and side table and stuff, because we figured it'd be around for a while, you know, all these boxes, what are we going to do with them? But because of fans like you, we ended up selling out in 2 weeks, and we did another 6,000. Those sold out a couple weeks later. And then we started getting calls from distributors who said, well, are you going to do a second issue? And we were like, we never really thought you would even sell the first issue. And so when we started on Turtles issue 2 back in 1985, what was great is that we then not only, for the first time in our lives, made a living at doing what we love so much, which is drawing comic books, but we get to put all of our favorite things that we loved about comic books in all the stories, and that continued to grow into issue 2 and 3 and 4. We were our own bosses. We were the artists, we were the writers, we were the inkers, the editors, the publishers. We wrote the fan mail, we wrote back to the fans, we answered the phones, and we were making enough money to eat all the macaroni and cheese we could eat in here. It was fantastic. I want to tell you kind of the beginnings, but that was really, you know, it was surprising to us, especially in the early days, that the first issue sold, and the second issue sold, and it kept selling. And we never, even in those days, we never thought it would go beyond the original comic book. But about 2 years later, we were still, you know, we were still in business, and parents were very thrilled that we were moving back into the basement anytime soon. But around this time, we got on the radar of Hollywood, and they approached us to do Turtles cartoons and Turtle movies and Turtle toys, which started a whole new, really crazy, really exciting era for us, because much like the giants that we stood on the shoulders of, guys like Jack Kirby who didn't have control over their own characters, Peter and I had complete control over our characters, and we were able to say what we could do with those characters and not do with those characters. So every single decision, everything that was done with the Turtles, we were part of it, we approved it, we got to control it. You know, Peter was the one that came up with the idea for the different colored bandanas. We changed the origin, we changed different things to our characters, and then we benefited from the success of our characters. So it was such an awesome experience to go into a field that you love so much, doing something you love so much, and then having success with something you love so much. And what amazes me the most out of these kind of conventions and stuff I'm doing these days is that it's now going to be 30 years later, and I'm still telling that story to a nice room full of people like this. It's fantastic. It's been around that long.